program, in my opinion, should be abolished. It should be radically changed, and the money should go back to the schools and the parks and the county, or to the taxpayers. The city should be a lot more open about how it's going to spend its public dollars for its economic development programs, instead of concealing it in a program that's largely off the books and in what I call the shadow budget. I know a lot of people here today have caught on to one aspect of the TIF program, which is part of the drum I've been pounding for all these years, and that is much of the money, or a good portion of it, or a good chunk of it, goes to some of the wealthiest corporations in Chicago, some of the best, most connected developers and insiders. And in that regard, I think the program has been its own undoing. I think in some ways, had the city been a little more discreet about throwing the money around, it wouldn't have brought so much attention to the TIF program. When you dole out money to corporations like Miller Core and the Willis Tower and the car dealership like North and Fullerton, etc., it brings bad press. So that's pretty much the 101 of TIFs. I told them I'd be short and sweet. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and if you want to have a debate on your own, feel free to have it. But here I am.
I'm particularly glad that the Occupy Chicago group is focusing on local issues. As I said in my talk, that one of the things that people have been criticizing all the Occupy groups is that they're focused on such large, great, giant problems, and they're kind of losing sight of what's happening on a local level. I tend to have a preoccupation with local level. Sometimes I feel as though the great, grand things are beyond my scope, my ability to change. But, so I was really delighted that they would give time to something as local as property taxes, TIFs, public financing. The big point I made was that the TIF program has been abused, and it's essentially a program that's supposed to be for the blighted, the poorest communities, but it's largely dedicated to the wealthiest communities, so that should change. And that it's a tax on property, so it makes the city more expensive to live in. So that has to change because people can't afford their taxes, to quote the great Marvin Gaye. And finally, it diverts millions of dollars from public schools and public parks and the county, so that there are services that people depend on and people need, but the money's not there because the money's being funneled into the TIF. So for those three basic reasons, we should change the TIF program, in my opinion.
And what are the most well-known TIF projects here in Chicago that people should be aware of, and how it impacts on the tax base?
Well, you got to distinguish between TIF deals, which are specific programs or projects that are funded by TIFs. So probably the most well-known Miller Coors, the corporation here in Chicago. Willis Tower had a lot of TIF money. United Airlines has gotten TIF money. Rush Presbyterian, the complex on the Lower West Side got about $70 million. Loyola University, which is the private university in the lakefront, got about $46 million. So I could go on and on. You should read the Chicago Reader. All these articles I've been writing all these years, I've chronicled many of these TIF deals. So those are the specific projects that have been funded. And then there's TIF districts in wealthy communities where there's really no need for them. And that would be in the South Central, which is the heart of the city's business community. And then the TIF districts on the Near West and the South Sides, which are gentrifying areas.
And these are diverting revenues away from schools and public housing, public hospitals.
Yeah, it diverts money from all these things, all these other public taxing bodies, like the schools, the parks, and the county. And the county is the one that pays for the hospital, pays for the jails, etc. So,
well, thank you again for coming down and talking with us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.